Welcome into another edition of Gas. I am Gresh. He is Jason Anik.
You were playing everybody and we're winning the game last night.
The head coach is fighting people on the sideline.
What do you got for me?
I know you're a part of Tight Pants Society.
No fucking way is that a gimme, right?
We roll into another edition of Gas, everybody. How you doing? Oh, Jason Anik's got a big smile on his face because soon on this show, he'll be drunker than shit because of the picks, and we'll get to that a little bit later on. But Jay, what's up? I know that a lot of people have been reacting to the Drake Maye betting odds for MVP after the Rams gloriously softer than puppy pooped their way to a loss in Atlanta. Whoa, but McVay! Soft as hell. Soft. Couldn't run to save their life yesterday. And when their quarterback had a bad moment, they ended up sinking. Jay, good morning. I'm all fired up.
Oh, great to see you. I'm excited to get into that. If you want to know why I'm smiling, is that let's say 60 or 70% of the time on this open, when you come in out of the music, it's just timed so perfectly that it makes me feel as though maybe I'm a listener back in the day, Gresh, 20 years back when I'm driving my mom's Acura down to United check cashing in Lauderdale Lakes and I'm listening to Andy Gresh on air. So no, for me, sometimes you just get that timing so well that it puts me in a good mood. That was the reason for my smile. A lot of reasons to smile. I think the MVP changed hands last night. And what I will say, then National Football League MVP. And I've said ad nauseum on so many shows, Cody Merrow knows it better than anyone. 2 years ago, Christmas Day, the MVP changed hands when the Ravens went and beat the 49ers on the road. 33-19. Brock Purdy had 4 interceptions. He was a huge favorite to win the MVP at that point. I had action on Brock Purdy. I think we'll see what happens in week 18, but the odds are such where Drake Maye is the overwhelming favorite to be the MVP, whereas last week it was Matthew Stafford.
I still think it is Stafford. I don't think it's going to flop and switch. I really don't.
Wow.
The betting odds, I don't think, are reflective of what the voting body is thinking. Let's remember, this is narrowed down to 75 people. It's only a tad more than who vote for the Hall of Fame in terms of people that vote on these awards. So we're going to be emotional about it. Maye had his best game by far. I think if Drake Maye did this 8 weeks ago, Jay, then maybe it swings things a little bit because, and I brought it to the show that when I did the research, there were 3 guys in particular who won the MVP in their second year. 2 of them set records and one of them in Lamar Jackson debunked narratives. I don't know if for the voting body, because there's the way we feel about it on the outside, and then there's like those 75 to 100 people that are going to vote. They shouldn't be voting emotionally. They're the ones that are going to look at it all year long. That's why I wonder if they're really going to be swayed at the end of the year. And here's another thing, Jay. What if Drake Maye don't play this week? I mean, that's something that the Patriots seriously have to consider this week is, are they going to play everyone considering they don't control the path? They don't control what the Chargers are going to do. So what do? Do you roll out Drake for the, he can win the MVP, let me rub the peanut butter all over my nipples? Or if you're Mike Vrabel, do you go, I need to sit the kid because I want to go to the Super Bowl?
Great stuff there. The Rams will also have that question. How much are they playing for this week too? But let me address the MVP stuff, Gresh, because it's fascinating, right? And I'm sitting there last night, Cody Merrow and our group chat were this line is moving like crazy. And I put more stock in the betting line maybe than perhaps you. Now, what I will say is it's almost like this perfect storm in terms of the MVP, right? Matt Stafford, right? He's sort of been trending in a bad direction. 6 interceptions in the last 5 weeks. He now has 8 interceptions. Same with Drake Maye. Drake Maye's numbers are just silly, right? And The Patriots are 13-3, the best record in the NFL. They will lose a tiebreaker to Denver, most certainly. But, if they want to take care of Miami, who knows if they're going to play everyone. The best record in the NFL. Rams are 11-5. Seahawks and 49ers playing for the division. I think there's a lot there. The Rams were sort of best team in football a lot of the season when they were sort of the 1 seed. They outplay Seattle and don't get the win. Stafford has an amazing game, sort of solidifies his MVP candidacy a couple weeks ago, but they lose the football game. I actually do think Drake Maye is going to win the MVP. There is some things that could factor in week 18, but I think Stafford, with what Drake did, and don't tell me 19 out of 21, 19 out of 20, because Kyle Williams, one of those was a drop, but I'm telling you, I think this market and the betting lines are indicative of what's going to happen. I think it flipped, not unlike it did 2 years ago, this late in the season. I think Drake Maye's winning it. I'd rather them hoist Lombardi than this, but I think it's his to lose at this point.
Yeah,
even for the voters.
I think when the voters end up sitting down and looking at it, I'm looking at the overall numbers between the two right now. So if the Rams end up playing it out, because you do make a good point in terms of a lot of the MVP talk with Stafford was centered around them also being the number one seed. Now that has gone poof and it's going to be either Seattle or the 49ers, maybe that changes things for people. But when you go back and you look at the numbers, Stafford, 4,448 yards, 42 touchdowns, 8 interceptions as of right now. May overall is 4,203, 30 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. I just wonder if
4 rushing touchdowns.
No, but
5 percentage points higher in completion percentage. That's not nothing.
But what I think people will do is, given the history of the people and the voters and who they are, which are, football rubes, they're going to ultimately go back and look at those numbers across the board and be like, Maye's only got 30. This to me will be the reaction of a troglodyte NFL voter. Oh, he threw 5 touchdown passes and he's only got 30 on the year. One of those things. I do think voters look for players on teams that win at a really high level. And now, Jay, psychologically, that the Rams are probably going to be the 6th seed, does that affect some of the voters? Do they look at Stafford differently on a 6 seed versus a 1 seed? And I don't know. I got a lot of friends in the biz who keep saying, and Albert Breer is one of them, don't go by the betting odds. And normally Brother Breer is pretty plugged in on who he's talked to. I think there's going to be the emotion of all of this where people are going to say it's going to swing. And then by the end of the week, it'll be really interesting just to see where the voters are at. And maybe more importantly, Jay, which teams are rolling out their players and which teams aren't. Yes. Mike Vrabel can make a real easy case for him to put Maye in bubble wrap and not worry about this game.
And so could the Rams. But, I think you're more likely to put Stafford out there now because he has to chase the MVP a little bit. Your point's very well taken about the betting odds, Gresh. I follow this market very, very closely. And I believe the perfect storm, right? You could look at the receivers that Matthew Stafford has to work with, Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua. Look what Drake, and don't ignore the rushing component for Drake Maye. But the elite, 8-0 on the road, some of the winning just has to, I believe it had to be the perfect storm last week where you literally have 5 touchdowns. And Matthew Stafford, right, almost coughed it up another time, but 3 picks. Like the numbers are sort of changing a little bit. And I think the numbers are very close and the team performance is there. I'm surprised I'm saying it, Gresh. If I had a vote, you and I are very tapped into this league. If I had a vote, I would have shockingly flipped my vote last night. And I know you don't like Mike Florio. I love Mike Florio. And he was talking about, what about Christian McCaffrey if they win the 1 seed? I understand the yards per carry isn't good, but plus 50,000 on Christian McCaffrey. If the 49ers are the 1 seed, I know he's maybe offensive player of the year, 1,000 yards rushing, 1,000 yards receiving perhaps. So anyway, it's a great conversation, Gresh. But if you had a vote, forget all the noise, betting lines, guys you talk to, if you had a vote, I think last weekend, did it not sway it a little bit, Gresh?
No, it didn't. It didn't for me.
So Matthew Stafford is your league MVP going away.
Yeah, I don't say going away. He still is in part because of the impact of Vrabel. Like that's something that some folks I think are not going to get the number 1 seed out of their head when voting for Stafford. And I think some of the people who are voting on these awards are also choosing, is Mike Vrabel the coach
and
of
Josh
the year?
McDaniels. I agree.
Well, yeah, and I think unfortunately this year for Drake, like McVay has gotten to the Belichick status to where people would make an argument for that guy to win the coach of the year every year. He doesn't factor into anything, Stafford, because it's such a stark contrast from last year. I do wonder if in the mind of some of these voters that, wow, they did this. Yes, Drake Maye played well, but they did this because of Mike Vrabel, not because of Drake Maye.
Yeah,
Maye was there. Maye was there last year and didn't look anything like this.
I hear you, Gresh. I feel like that falls a little flat for me. What I think is silly is the Broncos have had a horseshoe up their ass all year. They easily could have lost a game here or there. If the Broncos had lost one of these games, I promise you, people are like, oh, Drake Maye, Patriots 1 seed, and he's even heavier favorite, right? I'm telling you, I feel strongly about this, and I'm shocked. Last night, I'm sitting there laughing like, come on, it's Matthew Stafford won this award already. Yeah, I mean, look, and I was saying last week, Matthew Stafford minus 195, put your mortgage on it. And I feel like, gosh, this award is funky. I love the conversation. We can go wherever you want to go.
No, and let me give you one other thing, just in terms of the numbers across the board. Right. And this, unfortunately, not in the court of public opinion, but I think in the minds of some might work against Drake Maye just from a sheer numbers standpoint. And hopefully the MVP voters dive in. Drake Maye and Jared Goff have had very similar years.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
I'm just saying, I said stats wise. I'm thinking like an MVP voter.
That's the problem. I want you to think like yourself. I'm thinking about someone who aspires to maybe be an MVP voter one day.
Yeah,
bro,
and if I were
shocked that I flipped the tune on Stafford, but don't give me the Jared fucking Goff.
No, what I'm saying is the numbers
6, 8, and 7. Get the fuck out of here.
No, but the numbers are similar. 42-03 passing for Maye, 42-33 for Goff. Goff's got 33 tuds and 7 picks. Maye's got 30 tuds and 8 picks. All I'm saying is if people are looking, if the MVP voters are looking for other reasons to vote for Matthew Stafford, which I think they will, in fact, I would bet they will, they're going to find a way to give this thing to Stafford. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a voter who's going to roll out, well, when you look at Drake Maye's stats, they're very similar to Jared Goff. Like, that's just what these people do in these voting. Like I said,
give me a name of someone that's going to do that.
Stafford's winning still. Stafford.
Okay, so all right. Well, if you're that confident, I'm not going to give you odds. Then bet me straight up, and I'll take Drake Maye. You take Matthew Stafford, and bet me straight up if you're so confident.
All right, I'll tell you what.
Go on DraftKings and play it plus 300. You're out of your mind. Put your money where. Fuck. Don't bet me. Go bet $500 on DraftKings on Stafford plus 300. Cody, are you with me?
It's Drake Maye's baby.
No, for real, Gresh. Go play Stafford 3-1 if you're so confident.
Here's what I'll say. Why don't you and I do it? And if Maye wins the MVP, then you're off the hook of losing the bets and getting drunk.
You do it with me.
Well, no, because you're all fired up on this. You're all fired up on this, and you are convinced that Maye is on this, and I get the emotion. I do. I get the emotion of it because Maye had a hell of a night. I just don't think the voting body is going to flip.
Well, some of the emotions are because I think your arguments got worse as it went along. But my point is, if you feel so strongly, then there's the best. And I think my brother John would tend to agree with you. Then go to DraftKings.com and place a bet on Stafford plus 300 to win the MVP. There's a reason that odd exists because he ain't fucking winning it, if you ask me.
All right. I know we will we'll definitely find out here, but I don't trust the voting body is really what it is.
Fair.
By the way, speaking of voting body, we found out today that Adam Vinatieri is a finalist for the Hall of Fame again, which the guy should have been in there anyway, first time out. Speaking of what voting bodies can do, there we go. That's a part of the reason I react the way I do is because it's how the other people are going to react. There's only 50 people in that Hall of Fame room. And you mean to tell me 50 people came up with a reason not to put Adam Vinatieri in first ballot last year? That's what we're dealing with.
Fair.
I mean, I know you're all emotional and horned up for Drake Maye to win the MVP, but this is what these people do.
Well, we're doing a show here.
You just yelled at me to go make bets.
Well, because I think that it's I will lose money on Matthew Stafford to win the MVP. You know, and I believe that I will lose money. I believe that it is in this particular, the betting line to me is very reflective here, where normally I would tend to agree with Breer. Don't pay attention to that in terms of these awards.
So for the final week of the regular season, let me see here, where the Rams have the Cardinals. Oh God. Talk about being able to fatten up against somebody. But then again, here's the other thing about week 18. Does McVay just put Stafford out there to try to chase the MVP? Or does McVay look at it and shut him down? Believe it or not, I think it helps Stafford if he's shut down.
It's an interesting point, you know, and certainly there can be some recency bias, but there were some throws last night that he missed where maybe they could have won. But I think all year they're trying to fatten Stafford's statistics where the Patriots are just trying to sort of win football games. So I just think ultimately you got to sort of let the 18 weeks play themselves out. And I do think next week, you know, I mean, how much should next week matter in terms of the MVP, Gresh?
You know what? That's a great question unto itself, because I think, I mean, the Rams have some questions as to who they want to play. I think given the, the Patriots are in the 425 window with the Broncos, but it sounds like the Chargers are just going to roll over like my Golden to get their belly scratched, right? So what are the Chargers really going to roll out there? The Dolphins lose to the thermometer. I know we're going to get the picks later, but it's going to be 32 degrees and it might be snowy up here on Sunday in Foxborough. You think Miami's going to grind out a win in that shit? Hell no.
Great stuff. When we get to our bets, right, I kind of want to go through some of these games quickly because it's so interesting as we sit here on a Tuesday morning. Appreciate y'all being with us on Gas to try to figure out who is going to actually play for something. There's so many teams that could give themselves a bye. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, wait, you want to rip through these quick, okay?
Yeah, so
Saturday.
You want to do it now? All right, let's do it.
Saturday, Panthers, Bucks, skin in the game, everybody's playing. The other Saturday game, Seahawks, Niners, everybody's playing. Saints, Falcons, that game don't matter.
Oh,
Browns,
it's fascinating. It does.
Okay.
Not for those two teams, but that. Do you want me to explain or should we wait till later?
Please, no, please do.
Okay, so if the Falcons win, right? So yeah. Falcons have won 3 in a row. Saints have won 4 in a row, interestingly enough. If the Falcons win, the Bucks, Panthers, and Falcons all finish at 8 and 9.
Yep.
If Tampa Bay beats Carolina, if the Falcons beat the Saints, Carolina, even losing at Tampa at 8 and 9, punches their ticket. You know that?
Yeah. Because they beat Atlanta twice.
Right. So meaning that the Panthers could lose to Tampa and still get in. And I think what's interesting to me about the Falcons Saints game is I think you have two teams that actually are trying to continue their momentum into 2026 and win. So anyway, but I was going to get to that later, but anyway.
No, I love it. I really believe that the Saints started trying hard when Arch Manning announced that he was staying in school. I really believe that. I think they want Manning desperately. It changed their franchise. All right, Browns, Bengals. No, nobody to play for in that one. Colts, Texans. Texans are already in the playoffs. What a gore. Did we not predict on this show the fall of the Indianapolis Colts, I do believe? Like, we were never buying the Colts, even when Danny Dimes was out there.
Nope.
And that team is sunk.
You were on it a couple weeks ahead of everybody.
When they didn't beat the when they didn't beat Kansas City, yes. They had them dead to rights and could have killed them, and they didn't. Yeah.
So in terms of this Colts-Texans game, it is so interesting. So the Texans, and looking at this playoff picture, it's just fascinating. And one point I'll make generally about the AFC, right? Unless you're Denver prioritizing that 1 seed, I think there are a lot of matchups that can go either way. So trying to find that perfect matchup, I think in the AFC could be a flawed exercise. But if you're the Texans and if Jacksonville beats Tennessee at home, you're not moving anywhere. Aren't you keeping an eye on that scoreboard to an extent and getting ready for the Ravens or Steelers on the road, perhaps?
I think if you're Houston, you would probably have to consider not playing Stroud just because now they did win with Davis Mills. So, there is that. But yeah, if there's no real upward mobility for the Texans, then you're probably turning this into a bye week. But if you're Jacksonville, I think you're, full bore accelerator down to the floor because they have an outside chance at the number 1 seed. So I would assume that Jacksonville would probably play this thing unless there may be a guy or two you want to sit down. But in terms of like Lawrence playing and people like that, I don't think Jacksonville's going to back off. I think they're playing their people and they're probably going to blow doors.
I agree with that completely. Cody, can you go back to the lines? Gresh, we might as well keep going through these quickly as you have been.
Yeah. Well, Packers, Vikings. Packers can't really go anywhere. They're a mash unit. I don't think they're going to play a lot of people. Maybe the Vikings get a freebie. Look at that one. It's a half point because they don't know what Green Bay's going to do.
And so what I'll say quickly on that game, if you're Green Bay and you sort of stay put in the 7 slot, if I'm not mistaken, is that accurate?
I think they're locked as the 7, I believe.
Right. So if and pretty good, we're the Bears-Lions game is fascinating to me. But if you're the Packers, you say, okay, well, we're either if the Bears hold serve at home against the Lions, then we go to that division opponent as a 2 seed 7. I don't hate that. We're a little banged up. But if the Bears lose, perhaps you're going to Philadelphia. If I'm the Packers, much rather go to the division rival in the Bears than Philadelphia. I don't know, actually. It's fascinating. But all right. So that game, I think the Packers, you're right, don't have a lot to play for.
Yeah. And Minnesota is, they're just playing out the string at this point.
What else you got?
We touched Falcons. On Saints Falcons already. Cowboys Giants.
Nothing.
Honestly, you know what? Now that I didn't look at that number. I was going to say, now that I think of it, I wonder if the Giants don't want to slide down the draft any further. I feel like the Giants will be putting out I know this week they won against Vegas, but this might not be the effort that they put into Vegas against Dallas.
That's a great point. And let me just stop you there. If you see these 2 games on the board, right, don't you feel like the Cowboys and Bengals, despite not playing for anything, like Joe Burrow and them receivers, they want to put up numbers still, I feel like, and pad their I hate to say it like that, but right, like you're sort of leaning Cowboys, maybe the Giants, you better find yourself enough personnel out there to lose the football game.
Yeah, that might be one where Dak just, end of the year, Dak reminds everybody that he's great and throws for like 350 yards and is a hero in an 8-1 season. That's very Cowboys of them. Jets are at the Bills. The Bills are, there is zero chance Josh Allen plays in this game. Correct.
Right? Like that ankle, he's not himself. That's paramount. Regardless of, we could break down who the Bills want to face. The Bills are the team maybe nobody wants to face. We could break down who's best for them to face. But let's say it's the Texans with that pass rush. You want a healthy ankle. I agree with you completely.
Yeah, and I know they can move around a little bit. The problem for Buffalo this year is, Jay, so I'm just going through the losses. We know they lost to New England. They lost to Atlanta, Miami. They lost to Houston. They lost to Philadelphia. They didn't play the Chargers. So at least relative to Houston, Buffalo loses a head-to-head tiebreaker. So Houston will at least be higher in the stack than Buffalo. It's just whether the Bills are going to be the 6 or the 7, I think. And we'll see how they kind of play that out. But the Jets, that's fireable stuff from Aaron Glenn that we saw against New England, is it not, Jay?
Oh, well, it's really interesting because a lot of people, Cody chimes in, agrees with you. It'd be really interesting to see if they do the same thing. Robert Kraft, the best thing he might have done in his entire tenure as the owner was being willing to part ways with Gerard Mayo, because otherwise Mike Vrabel is going to lead another franchise for the next 15, 20 years. Is not going to be in New England. It just feels like the Texans, man, won 8 in a row. That's a team sort of nobody wants to face as a wild card. So Buffalo, like any of these division opponents, I don't see how you play Josh Allen. What else we got before we talk about the Patriots? What other?
Just real quick.
Yeah.
I am praying that it is Houston coming in here.
I know you are. I can't wait to talk about that too.
Lions, Bears, Chargers, Broncos, Cardinals, Rams, Chiefs,
Lions,
Raiders.
Bears.
Yeah, Lions, Bears, please. Let's dig in.
So the Bears, they hold the 2 seed now, and if they beat the Lions, they retain the 2 seed. I believe if Philadelphia wins and the Bears lose, right, in a close game on paper, then they maybe drop down into the 3 seed. So if I'm the Bears, right, yeah, Philly's 11-5 as well. So if I'm the Bears, I like stay as much as for the Packers. I said I wouldn't mind going to Chicago. For the Bears, you want that 2 seed. You agree?
Yeah, if you're the Bears, you want those 2 games at home. Hang on here.
Packers,
I was looking at my ESPN notes just to go to the seeding scenarios. With the Bears for the 2 seed, it's a win or a Philly loss. And if the Bears lose and Philly wins, the Bears are the 3. Yeah, they want to be the 2.
Don't you think? But as I think through, right? But you call the Rams soft, which opened my eyes a little bit, right? If you're Chicago, who knows if you rather have a Rams team come into Soldier Field than a division opponent. Go ahead.
I would rather play the division opponent if I'm the Bears because I know them inside and out. I think for the, I think for the Rams, yeah, if you're Philadelphia matching up against them, it's the whole try to run them over, really, because I just don't think they're very tough. I think what's crazy, Jay? If the Bears draw the Rams, I think the Bears lose in the wild card round. As long as it's Bears Green Bay, I think the Bears are beating Green Bay and then moving on to play the winner of what might be Rams Philadelphia.
I couldn't agree more. Cody, let's finish getting through that slate. We were just going through sort of seeing what teams might have something to play for, who may not. So let's just keep going through. Rams is fascinating, Gresh.
Yeah, Eagles Commanders, right? We just went through the whole 2-3.
Yeah. Good call.
So if you're Philadelphia, if you're Philly, you're saying, I got a home game anyway. Do you really give a shit? Like, is health more important to the Eagles? Or for some reason, do they really want the number 2 seed, or at least want to try to play for the number 2 seed?
So I'm going to look at the time of these games right now, because for Philly, I would love to avoid the Rams coming in, who I think would have won that game if it wasn't snowing last year.
Philly and the Rams play the same time.
Yeah. So for me, it's Philly and the Bears play at the same time. Is that? Yes, of course.
Philly, the Bears.
Yep.
Philly, the Bears, and the Rams all are in the 425 window.
So if I'm Philly, right, I'm watching the scoreboard, and if the Bears beat Detroit, I'm keeping an eye on that. I think there should be some scoreboard watching if I'm some of these teams, because if I'm Philadelphia, if it is going to be the Rams, I want to make sure I'm healthy, and that's how it sort of slates right now. That Rams team, a tough out in the first round of the postseason.
I got to tell you, I think some of these teams, quite honestly, especially the Rams and the Eagles, I wonder if they're going to be very open like the Chargers and declare before the game, hey, we want to win, but we're going to protect certain assets, right? Like, are you going to play Barkley? Are you going to play Stafford? Are you going to play Nakua? Are you going to play A.J. Brown? Or do you just play him a half or play him a quarter, something like that? That's the real hard part of handicapping these games this week.
Yes.
Is what is the real motivation? And normally the injury report tells us the motivation, but if we're waiting until 90 minutes to kick off to wager, all your value is sucked out of whatever you may turn into loving.
Great point. And, Sean McVay has been prone to sort of take that bye week. And I think, honestly, he might not tell you, but I believe Stafford's going to be out there to try and throw a few touchdowns and solidify that MVP case.
I would agree.
Because honestly, the Rams would be wise to just shut everybody down. He may say, we want to get some momentum back, want to get a victory or whatever, but they're a little shaky going in. The path is going to be brutal with those 2 division opponents, Seattle and San Francisco, if nothing else. I mean, the path, fascinating. There was another game. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, why don't we jump to the Sunday nighter? Because that's the one that's got a lot of skin in the game for the AFC North Division title, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. And goddamn Pittsburgh. God damn it, them. I mean, could they have sold any harder in Cleveland and looked like absolute ass? They had no answers. They didn't throw the ball to tight end at all. Why is Alan Lazard not on that roster? The Jets just let the guy go. Good Lord. That was awful by Pittsburgh.
I agree. Like, is DK Metcalf that valuable, Gresh?
Apparently, well, you know what it is when Rodgers locking on guys, like he had the corner route to MVS and just locked in that he was throwing it, trying to hit him with a fade to the back corner of the end zone or whatever. And if that's maybe Alan Lazard or someone who's a friend of Rodgers, maybe that's somebody who can run you a little return route on the goal line or something like that. I just don't understand. Like DK went down. That was stupid. Yeah. All right. So bring in another friend of Rodgers. And by the way, if Lazard can play a little bit, why wouldn't you have olds like him and Thielen out there with DK? Because those are the dudes that can work in the middle of the field and make it easier on Rodgers. And for some reason, Aaron Rodgers doesn't love Pat Freiermuth.
I know.
I don't get it. Hey, I'll take that guy. You know what? I'll put that big sumbitch in this offense. I'll take that in a heartbeat.
I don't want to go off on a tangent, but hey, Vrabel, in the offseason, you have one job. Go get Max Crosby. Okay? He don't want to be there. Go get that. I'll tell you, that guy, Max Crosby, put at the top of the list. Cody just put some in the chat. But before we get to what Cody put in the chat, Gresh, I just want to say one thing.
Oh my.
And then you can get to that because I don't want to lose this point, right? We talk about Rodgers missing some throws. We saw Matthew Stafford miss some throws last night. Josh Allen missed a throw to win a football game against Philadelphia on a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. Jalen Hurts missing throws all years. Drake Maye hasn't missed a lot of throws, Gresh. You know what I mean? Like, he just doesn't miss a lot of throws. What do we got in the chat, Gresh?
Well, hang on. We're going to get to the chat, but I want to ask you one. I want to ask you one thing. Because you know how MVP voters or voters get caught up in moments, okay? What would you say is the signature win for Drake Maye this year?
Probably early in the season, winning at Buffalo.
Okay. Because I think what I think is going to happen is there's always, especially with the quarterbacks, there's always what was the signature win? What was their shining moment if we go NCAA tournament?
Yeah, and I think for Drake Maye, the silly consistency, just how, and that completion percentage is elite. The 8-0 on the road, 14-3 perhaps as a record. And I also believe that when I bring up the perfect storm, I wouldn't have made any of these arguments last week, Gresh, but then you give me a game where Drake Maye is 19 of 20. 19 of 21 on paper.
Maybe this past week,
touchdowns.
Maybe this past week was
Stafford shits the bed in prime time. I think it certainly could be. I think the Ravens win on the road, but to me, it's the body of work rather than the signature moment. And I feel very strongly, which is why I was passionate earlier, because I will lose a lot of money on Stafford.
Well,
I'm going to lose a lot of money on my bets on Stafford. John doesn't agree with me.
John's with me on this. Is Stafford
hopefully he's watching Gas, and I've sold him. I'd be shocked if I'm being honest with you.
You're gonna get a text. Anger hedge.
No, I really would be. I really would be shocked. We have so much to get to. I know there's something in the chat.
Oh yeah, we got bad news.
Oh
yeah, we got bad news here. There was the worry when Steph Diggs got here. How long could the act kind of go along before he becomes problematic, or at least something comes up? Well, per Boston 25, Steph Diggs is charged with felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery charges stemming from an incident on Tuesday, December 2nd. That is what is out there. That is what we know. I'm trying to click on. The one thing I love about the TV stations is they don't put a paywall up. I can actually click an article and get to it.
Yeah.
So I'll read it here real quick, Jay. As I mentioned, Diggs charged felony strangulation or suffocation and misdemeanor assault and battery stemming from an incident on Tuesday, December 2nd, a day after the Patriots trashed the Giants. Diggs' attorneys appeared in court in Dedham on Tuesday, seeking to have the police report impounded, arguing the details should remain sealed. So that's the latest from Boston 25 on all of this. I'm going to Twitter just to see kind of
as you take a peek on Twitter. I just want to say, on a football note, we don't know what happened, so I'm not going to say one side of that. But what I will say is the fact that with all this noise and Stephon Diggs just having a baby, he's been able to put supreme concentration on what's going on the field. I had so much to say about him, the football player. He's been one of the best receivers in football, returning from the ACL. Like, his work ethic, second to none, the way he's fit in with this locker room. So for me, until we have details, gosh, man, that's really disappointing. I had in my notes, Diggs, just to talk about the football player.
Well, you know what? Let me hit you with this one. Apparently, and again, you don't want to like forensically run with anything or something like that, but there's video of Diggs and Cardi B, I guess, on the field in New York last week after the game or whatever, kind of sharing a moment a little bit. There you go. Cody already snagged that and pulled it up. That's from Bleacher Report. So for those who think that, you know, I would think if she were on the other side of this, what we just found out, then maybe those two aren't doing that down in New York. But this is concerning just from the Steph Diggs end, because I think the way he's played this year, everybody wants to dig in and really embrace this guy. So Diggs put this on Instagram. I like this, the whole leaning forward. I wonder if that's in reaction to someone actually finding out what was going on. Because if this happened on December 2nd, Jay, you just don't find out about your court date yesterday and then you show up today. So hopefully Diggs was straight. My first thought runs to, hopefully this isn't a heinous crime. And second of all, did he tell the team? Have they known this the past couple of weeks and still played this kind of football?
Great question.
This maybe sword of Damocles was kind of hanging over their head. Now it's not gonna take Diggs out of the playoffs. It's not gonna really change anything for New England. It's just more the distraction of asking. You're getting ready for a football game this week. And when Mike Vrabel steps to the podium on Wednesday, the first question is going to be, what do you know about Steph Diggs? What do you think about Steph Diggs? Steph Diggs. It's all going to turn into that this week. And man, Jay, I hope he told him, because if he didn't tell him, Vrabel is going to be white hot, and he should be.
Well, and that's the question you just asked. I love that that's the angle you took, right? And look, we'll find out more details. There are going to be plenty of people that want to wax about this without having details. But yeah, from a football standpoint, I guess that's why I went there, because some people are able to compartmentalize, and Stephon Diggs looks to be in great control at certain on the football field and other times. So who knows? Who knows what's going to come out of this? But yeah, I think your point's very well taken, that in terms of that beautiful locker room chemistry, if he told Mike Vrabel ahead of time, that bodes well for this just to be a minor road bump.
Yeah, and this is also one of those deals where you want the organization to know, because they also know people. They can help your lawyers in a number of ways, just in terms of judges, the system here in Massachusetts, who's going to come out of the woodwork to try to start digging more, because up here in Mass, we know that's going to happen. So that's disappointing to hear, because, Jay, I really do believe that New England fans would love to forget or think that maybe Steph has grown up and he's not throwing tantrums on the sideline anymore and things like that. And there have been times where even I, who was really skeptical of this dude, like with Barmore last week, right? Barmore's getting into it at the end of the half. Diggs is the one who's like waving him over and then getting in his ear right before Vrabel ends up getting in Barmore's face. That's the kind of stuff I wondered if Steph Diggs was going to do. That's trying to show at least a little bit of leadership from a veteran player whose emotions do go up and down.
But you know what I will say, right? Like Stephon Diggs, right? Even during training camp, I think when he was having a good time or whatever, it's like people have a right to do what they're going to do, especially if you take care of your body the way Stephon Diggs appears to. So for me, well, until we know the circumstance, he could be at a club, someone messing with his girl, and he's fucking choking someone out, self-defense. You don't know. And a lot of these celebrities, people chasing paper against them. So until we hear anything, you know, who knows? Maybe because he knows how innocent he is, he's able to focus on the football field. But your point's very, very well taken. That to me is the thesis, right? Do you go to Uncle Mike Vrabel right out of the gate with it? I hope he did.
Yeah, I hope he did too. Let's go.
So let's quickly chop through the topics. And then I do want to circle back to the playoffs and talk a little bit about that before we get to our picks. So in terms of the Patriots over the Jets, we could go on and on, but 42-10, let's fucking go, boys. And one thing I said to my brother, John, right, is that some of these great teams, these Patriot teams in the past with Brady at the helm, right? And I know a lot of times you'd have that game at the end of the season where you'd lose to the Dolphins, right? You'd go 15 and 1, but you'd lose to the Dolphins, whatever it is. And so, it's hard for me to imagine some of these past Patriots teams going in and stomping a team like that, right? Sometimes you feel like it was a little closer back in the day with Belichick. This team just put a fucking stamp on sort of this season there. And I was really just blown away. I know the Jets are a fragment of themselves, but like, way to fucking gather some more momentum as you try and hoist a trophy here.
Well, I also think too, the first quarter starts against these bad teams, they just roll over and die. Like they don't want to fight anymore. They don't want to fight anyway because they're a bad team to begin with. And you jump up 21-0 and punch them in the face in the first quarter and they have no idea what to do. You know, it was, to your point, Jay, if you're a good team or a really good team, you shouldn't just beat these sad sacks.
Yes.
You should lay the wood to them. And that's the difference is, you know, like we could contextualize in 2017, let's say, Jay, that Bill Belichick sat down half the roster against the Jets because he didn't give a shit. It was just, if we win by 8, fine. We just need to win the game. We don't care. This was kind of piling on a little bit. That end of the half, Mike Vrabel was like, no, F them. Go punch it in the end zone. If they're going to dick around like that at the end of the half, go stick it to them. And they did. And that was the real dagger. Like, there's the difference. Indianapolis, fourth quarter on the road, Kansas City, they can't like stick the trident through the heart. Mike Vrabel is teaching his football team to take the trident and stick it through their hearts.
Well, absolutely. You know, and a lot of these teams, as they try and navigate week 18, right, and rest players or whatever it is, there are going to be schools of thought where you want to gather some momentum and get on that football field and impose your will and develop some momentum as you go into the postseason. You know, the Patriots are going out there on sort of trying to peak, want to be a great team and want to prove the Jets don't belong on the same football field with us who are just building towards something bigger. You take care of what's in front of you. So it'll be really interesting for me to watch week 18 because I do think absolutely it's a sport where momentum matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it definitely should. And that's the interesting part for Denver, New England, and Jacksonville. Do they chase the number 1 seed in hoping that momentum carries over, but that you don't get hurt? Or do you kind of stifle the momentum a little bit to make sure you protect everyone that you need to be able to win? Like, this is not a game where Bill Campbell and Milton Williams are coming back. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, and maybe they're off IR. But so, you know, we may have a little bit of overlap with the picks here. But I want to talk about the Broncos, right? Because the Broncos at home, you win the football game, you're the number 1 seed, and you have a bye. And Jim Harbaugh has come out and said Justin Herbert's not playing. That was pretty obvious. He's so banged up, you got to shut him down. But the Chargers are gifting the Broncos that game. Do you agree with that? I mean, do you agree with that? Simply put, that the Broncos are being gifted sort of the 1 seed here. The Chargers, Justin Herbert's not playing. I know he's banged up, but the Broncos, all they got to do is win to win the 1 seed. I mean, that's very simple here to me. The one team that's told you they're sort of shutting it down is the Chargers, and the Broncos have the most to play for in the AFC, are sort of getting that gift.
I would be really tempted if I'm Vrabel to sit a whole bunch of people down. I really would be. Because, and you know what? And the Chargers are the proof, Jay. take care of your own, right? It's only those 53. There's, if New England gets the extra bye, fine. You get the extra week. You're still licking the same wounds. You're still like, if I were Vrabel, man, I'd be real tempted to sit people down because cold weather, Dolphins, you don't know what you're going to get. And honestly, I don't think the Chargers are going to put up a fight. I really don't. I think Jacksonville, again, I think Tennessee will be friskier against Jacksonville than the Chargers will be against the Broncos.
Who has the tiebreaker with the Jaguars and the Patriots would be my question.
If both teams win, the Patriots do.
Well, the Patriots have one less loss. So if the Patriots lose and they end up 13-4, right? The Jaguars are a game behind the Patriots right now. Is that accurate?
Yeah. Hold on. I got seed tiebreakers right here. This might get
if the Jaguars win and get to 13-4 and the Patriots lose and get to 13-4.
Hang on. Jacksonville gets the 3 seed with a win, a Denver win, and a New England win or loss and a Houston loss. That's why I said it gets gobbledygooky whenever we get into this.
Here's the point I want to make, right? All right, so Cody, what do you put for the Patriots? Forget the 1 seed. You're and I point. Denver's getting the 1 seed, okay? Well, in my opinion, like without fucking question. So for the Patriots, the Jaguars on the tiebreaker over the Patriots, primarily due to better conference. That's all I need. Okay, so Cody or Gresh, I could read that in detail, but this is why the Patriots might need to. You want the 2 seed because if Jaguars very well could win. And if the Patriots lose, the Jaguars are the 2 seed. You don't want that if you're New England, right? You still want the 2 seed, so you're hosting the playoff game against that Florida team. So the Patriots do have something to play for, and they're in the 425 spot. What time does Jacksonville play?
They're all 425.
No. Jacksonville plays at 1:00 now. So
the
Patriots will know. So if Jacksonville wins, the Patriots will know that they need to win for that 2 seed. And you can be sure the Dolphins are going to come up here with Quinn Ewers and they're going to try and, sort of keep playing competitive football. It's fascinating. This week 18 is really fascinating. Don't you agree that 2 seed matters?
Sorry, it does. No, it does. And the hook is for Jacksonville to get the 2 seed, Jay. So Jacksonville needs to win. Denver loss. New England can win. If Denver loses, then Jacksonville could end up moving up weirdly, according to this. Or Jacksonville wins, Denver wins, and New England loses. That's the cleanest way. If Denver wins, and that's the hook, is that for Jacksonville to get the 2, they also need Denver in there as well, depending on what New England does. So all 3 of these teams are all connected in a weird way. And you're right. If Jacksonville wins, then as you're getting into the gobbledygook, maybe New England ends up looking at it a little differently. Because I don't think New England's going to look at it and say, we care about who's the 6, who's the 7. Do you remember the year that Belichick ordered Castle in the last game of the year to throw it in the stands so they would play Jacksonville the very next week? And then they turn around and just gang raped them like 50-0 or whatever.
Yes, it's so interesting and how cute you want to get, because Cody says you want to avoid Buffalo still, in my opinion. And that's what's interesting, right? So Buffalo's sitting in the 7 spot, right? Gosh, I mean, if you're the Bills and you lose, I understand. So the Chargers are, all these teams, if they, the Bills sit in the 7 spot right now. So I'm assuming if the Chargers lose, which they're trying to, they would, and the Bills, it's fascinating.
I got you here, brother. How about this? Did you know that for the 7 seed, there are 4 teams in play? So the 7 seed could be the Bills.
Yep.
The 7 seed could be the Texans. The 7 seed could be the Chargers. And if I read you this one, believe it or not, the 7 seed could be the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen to this. If the Jaguars lose and Houston wins and Buffalo wins and the Chargers win and there's wins by 5 of either Dallas, Rams, Miami, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Seattle, Tampa, and then they lose the strength of victory to the Chargers, so the Jaguars could be as high as the 2. And if a wacky scenario happens, the Jaguars could be the 7. Okay. That is whack.
So, with respect, that ain't happening.
That
And
ain't
I think
happening. I don't think
Denver's
so.
going to be the one seed. And it is so interesting for New England, right? So, Gresh, just follow me here.
Yeah,
If I'm the Patriots, this is just sort of spitballing on this program because, gosh, there's so much to dive into. Sometimes you don't have enough time to dive into all this. If I'm the Patriots, I fucking lose that game. I'm not lose that game. I shouldn't say it like that, but I rest guys perhaps, right? Because if you are the 3 seed, and you're hosting the Chargers, even if you have to go on the road at Jacksonville, you put yourself potentially in a scenario where Jacksonville and Buffalo go against each other. Maybe Buffalo goes and gets Jacksonville. You don't have to worry. Fascinating. It's fascinating. Gresh, a lot of different areas. I feel as though the Patriots are going to try and keep it rolling and prioritize the top seed and let everything sort of play out as it will. Who's to say Buffalo's the team to avoid, right? Not the best defense out there.
Yeah, no, and we know that New England can play Buffalo tough. I mean, you'd be worried about the Allen effect. There's no question, but I got to tell you, I don't think the scoreboard will matter during the game in terms of resting certain people. Here's the problem of waiting until Sunday in the minds of some to make this decision. Jay, if I'm going to wait till Sunday to figure out how hard I'm going to go after this, what am I doing in practice this week? Like Harbaugh came out and said, I ain't playing people because he's got to get the backup ready the whole week. I think the decision's already been made. They're going to play everybody on the whole. And if the situation dictates, then maybe you slide Maye out of there or you slide someone else out of there who's maybe working some dings. Because you either, in my opinion, you got to declare at the beginning of the week, or you're going to tell your team, hey, we're going to play everybody. You all MFers be ready. And then maybe on Sunday you give guys a couple of head taps and say, yeah, we're not going to play you. Vrabel's got to be very delicate in how he handles that because he's got to tell the team, I need your focus this week. We got to get this win. And then if he turns around on Sunday and is like, man, I'm sitting half of you guys down, that wouldn't fly. So there's going to have to be open communication early in the week. And I think what they're just going to say is, yeah, it's like a regular week. We're going to play it out. We're going to go for it. And then maybe Vrabel makes a decision on Sunday and explains it to individual players.
Great stuff there. And in terms of a lot of these situations, there are injuries, right? Justin Herbert's banged up. Josh Allen is banged up. But just generally speaking, I just want to ask you a question, maybe as a past football player. Let's say your team is sort of fully healthy and you couldn't move much in the standings. Do you prefer, generally speaking, to rest guys in this type of sport or to fucking be out there and develop that continued momentum into the playoff gauntlet?
If I have nothing to gain, health over everything. I mean, really, this is where if you're an NFL coach, you kind of have to go into some NBA mode, right? We look at, say, the teams in the Western Conference. How many years, Jay, have we heard, well, the Golden State Warriors might be the 7th seed, but they're finally completely healthy, and oh boy, they're going to go on a run. That's really what I would try to opt for. And for me, it would be a lot of individual conversations with players in terms of how do you feel health-wise? Where are you at? You know, you're on top of it anyway, but I think having a lot of individual discussions with guys, hey, maybe somebody needs a mental blow. Like, seriously, maybe somebody needs
like
a mental break. Right. But maybe somebody needs a mental break for a week or something like that. Yeah, I think you've got to, it's not like a paint by numbers situation. I think you really have to be detailed with it. And I know there was a lot of times where, you know, let's think about it, Jay. In years past, we would never be having this discussion, not even close, because the number 2 seed would have been a bye.
Right.
So it would have been right. So we're in a whole different world now with these new playoffs. And this is the first time for us here in New England where the number 2 seed comes attached with these kinds of conditions of, holy shit, what are you going to do? Because in years past, it would be, oh, you're going to get the week off as well. And it's completely changed the mindset. Quite honestly, the expanding the playoffs and going to the 18-game regular season has ruined the last week of the year. It really has. How many wipe your ass games did we go through this week There's implications from other ones, but come on, is Jacksonville, Tennessee really going to be competitive? Is New England, if they play everybody in Miami, really going to be competitive at the end of the day? You can predict a lot of the quote unquote winners. You might not get the spread right, but I mean, week 18 is now horse shit because of what they've done.
Well, I agree for the most part, and the games that matter are these division games where these teams are, below average to begin, right? 8, 9, 9 and 8. You know what I mean? So your point is very well taken.
Jay, just real quick, because I know we got picks. What we never think about is like the other side, meaning like Jacksonville's playing Tennessee. What does Tennessee have to play for? They don't have a head coach. They got to hire new people. So if you're that organization, if I'm Amy Adams Strunk, I might pull my interim coach aside and say, hey, I'd like the highest draft pick possible. Just wanted you to know. Have a nice day.
Right. Whereas I do think Falcons Saints, which is a game that we'll get to in the picks, is a fascinating game for me because I do believe in carrying some momentum from the end of the season, right? It's like if I'm the Saints and I'm going to free agents, I'm saying, look, Tyler Shuck looks pretty good. We won 5 straight to end the season. Come here. So I think there's some of that out there. And so for the Falcons Saints, I think perhaps, these ACS, these Achilles injuries, Kirk Cousins looks a lot healthier now. I know they alluded to that in the broadcast, looks a lot healthier now than he did last season. Finding Kyle Pitts going to make himself a bag of money with what Kirk Cousins has been doing, feeding him going in the offseason. Anyway, one final question for you before we get into our picks. I've been calling the Rams the best team in football all season, right? And I know that you alluded to them being soft, right? Their path is going to be difficult to get to the Super Bowl. How much do you believe in the Rams as we sit here today moving into the postseason?
They're losing in Philadelphia. Because I think Philadelphia is going to look at the Rams and be like, you know what? We're tougher than them. And they'll try to run on them. And that's where, if you put Stafford on the Eagles, boy, you'd love him with those wide receivers, would you not? With A.J. Brown and the kid from Alabama and stuff like that and those tight ends and having a running game like Saquon. But you're flipping around on the other side and you throw Jalen Hurts in there and you're like, oh, okay. But that's the key. You run Jalen Hurts, you open up the running game for Philadelphia, and they create their own drama. Sometimes they're idiotic down there. And if the drama's going to win out, then it'll show in the performance of the Eagles. But I just believe that team, they literally, Jay, can walk onto a burning football field, with like the ring of fire, and they're okay going in there and playing. Like Philly is just that kind of team. I'm not a believer in the Rams when it comes to being physical. If Stafford can throw it all over the lot for 350, then maybe they got a chance against the Eagles, but they're going to play outdoors again and stuff like that. I heard somebody on ESPN radio last night who was like, well, it's not a driving snowstorm. That's why you don't want to build a dome. That's why you want all those soft-ass dome teams to come northeast and play in the weather in January. That's the advantage. So, build a football team in a dome that can win outdoors. No one wants to do that. They think of building it for their home turf. And that's where I think ultimately it bites them.
Quickly, I'll just say, Cody put in the chat, I was going to say it as you brought that up. The idea that the Chiefs are moving into a dome in Kansas is atrocious. I don't want to do a whole segment on that. Go ahead.
No, what I was going to add is in 2031, if old man Kroenke gets his way in Denver, every team in the AFC West will play indoors. I want you to think of that for a second. How much does that then make the outdoors and the home field advantage even bigger? They want to build like a roof over that stadium in Denver, or they want to build some Shangri-La or something like that. And by the way, Kroenke doesn't own the Broncos. The Walmart people do. Sorry. Kroenke owns the stadium in LA, even though he has business interest in Denver. But apparently Kroenke wants in on the construction of whatever they're going to do. But yeah, Jay, here's the boiler point part of it. By 2031, all 4 of those teams in the AFC West could be indoor teams. That's great.
Yeah, I
for
mean,
New
it's a
England.
business, the fan experience. I understand. But it's not football. All right.
Is it pick time?
Yeah, let's move into podium picks. So those of you join us today, we appreciate you. If you haven't joined us before, hey, podium picks brought to you by Bone Marrow Marketing. No, so we pick 3 games against the spread: gold, silver, bronze, in order of what we like best. You get 3 points for a correct gold selection, 2 points for a correct silver, 1 point for a correct bronze. Gresh has been on complete fire. Gresh, 21-12 through 17 weeks. I'm 18-13-2. Not that bad, but you have a 9-point lead over me, despite only 1 less loss. So you've won some gold medal games. Last week, we both went 1-2. Kind of a funky week. You hit your silver medal game. I hit my gold medal game. Not a ton to really get into in terms of last week, unless you want to.
No, the only thing, as I said earlier, in the words of Dusty Rhodes, it's over, baby. We're having this is a free week to have some fun.
Yeah. So what's interesting, it is fascinating, though, how dusted I got, but not shitting the bed in terms of making picks, right? I couldn't catch up no matter what. Yet it wasn't as if I'm like fucking under 500.
No, you were profitable.
But starting week 7 was a little challenging, but the punishment, right? And we were taking it through week 18. So to your point, right? Next week on the show, we got to find a time. The punishment was to do a power hour. And Gresh trying to take me off the hook, giving me like an MVP bet. No, I think I need to do this. So I'm going to find some light beer. And next week, if there was ever going to be a shit show, I mean, I may ruin my equipment here.
I don't want you to soil yourself. I mean, that would, how ignominious would that be?
A shot of beer a minute.
That's rough, bro.
I'll be hammered, but it'll be hilarious.
It will be. It will be fun, but we still got picks to make this week in what is by far the toughest week to handicap of the year. It's not even close.
Especially on a Tuesday when you really don't know. There's one game that I took out, the Buffalo Bills -7 or -7.5, because I have no idea if they're prioritizing seeding and playing and momentum, then I think they put their foot down, but I think Josh Allen shouldn't play. So anyway, we'll let you remain in control of the board. What's your third best play for a wacky week 18?
Let me go Jacksonville -12.5 against Tennessee. You'll notice my theme here in a few minutes, but I don't trust Tennessee. And here's the thing. On the other side for Tennessee, they want to suck. They want 3 wins. They want a high draft pick. Not that that's going to be talked about during the week, but there's that feel down there of thank God this season's coming to an end. Interim coach is going out the door. Jaguars have really everything to play for. I really think they're going to go for it. They're not going to say there's 2 teams above us. So I'm going to go Jags against a really bad Tennessee team.
Love it. Couldn't agree more. That was one of my final games out. Tennessee's been hanging around in some of these games, and I do think there are situations where Tennessee would love to maybe lose that football game, right? But I do think that they're not looking for a quarterback. And look, we saw last year with the Patriots ending up with Will Campbell, right? Sometimes when you win that final game and get a little bit worse of a draft pick, not the worst thing. So my bronze medal selection, and you talk about handicapping this week. I felt the desire to do less research on some of these games because some of them really felt like a crapshoot. So my bronze medal pick, I'm going with the Falcons -3 versus the Saints, because I believe this opportunity for the Falcons to shake things up and finish at 8-9. Tied for the division lead, even though you don't make the postseasons. The fact that the Falcons could sort of finish 8-9 with everything Kirk Cousins is doing. Bijan Robinson's the best player in the National Football League, right? So I know what the Saints are doing. They've won 4 straight. And look, the Falcons had some opportunities last night where they almost gave away a 21-0 lead. But I believe that the Falcons kind of want to develop some momentum. Maybe Kirk Cousins, it's tough to find a good quarterback in this league. Do I think he's got a little left? I do. So I think the Falcons do enough here. I think they're motivated to win. It scares me a little bit. The reason it's my third best play is I think the Saints are coming and trying to win too. These are 2 football teams. They don't care about the draft. I think they're trying to win the football game for a lot of reasons, but I think the Falcons at home, I like that building. I'm just rolling with them at the small number for my.
No, I think it'd be very Falcon of them to win like their last 3 games and save Raheem Morris's job. So I'm totally with you on this.
And for them to be able to eliminate Tampa Bay, right? The Bucs at home can beat the Panthers, or I don't know if that game at the road, but the Bucs can beat the Panthers. Where is that game? Is that at Tampa? I believe it is.
It's in Tampa, I do believe.
So if the Bucks win that football game and the Falcons eliminate them by fucking winning the last 4 games of the season, I love it.
Well, yeah, and the good part about that for you is that Panthers-Bucks game is the first game of the weekend on Saturday at 4:30. So the result will be in early. My silver medal will be the Denver Broncos laying a huge number against a team who, again, like my golden retriever Carl, is going to roll over and wait for their belly to get pet. The Chargers are thinking about next week. The Broncos are thinking about this week. There's your simple analysis.
Absolutely love it. Might get to that game a little bit further in my selections this week.
I hate the 12.5. I will say, like, the numbers for the teams who could all get the number 1 seed in the AFC, the numbers are just goddamn huge.
You know, it's just the Broncos this fucking season. And as a Patriots fan, right? None of that Drake Maye stuff is Patriot, but it's like the Patriots. That's a one team that doesn't scare me in the AFC. It's the Denver Broncos as a Patriots fan. That team doesn't scare me. Maybe you got to go on the road. Okay, I respect that defense, but come on. Go look at the end of some of those football games. That team could be, 10-6.
You know who they are? They're the Vikings of last year. They've won almost every close game Bingo. They've been in. And now, again, Darnold versus Knicks, it's just in terms of who could end up spitting the bit. I mean, the reason that Denver has to really, truly go for this, A, it's the number 1 seed, but B, they have the most unique environment of anyone in the AFC. Minus New England and Buffalo with weather, you're going to altitude. And I don't altitude, heat, and wind are the 3 things you definitely cannot control in football. And the two of those things can make you melt. You don't know how your body's going to react in the heat. You don't know how your body's going to react in the altitude. That makes it. That's why I was like, Denver's going to go indoors. What do they do? I know it's still high in the air and it can still affect you, but the outdoor versus indoor effect, I don't know. I just thought they would leave it outdoor. Yeah.
I agree. My silver medal selection week 18 in the NFL. I'm going with the Bears minus 2.5 versus the Lions. I don't think they want to lose momentum here, especially against Ben Johnson's old team. I do think the Lions are going to try and win this football game.
100%.
And they are talented, and I think they have a great chance to do so. That's why the line is 2.5. I just think there's too much at stake for the Bears, and I actually think they're too good. I think they need the number 2 seed, with that division opponent, the Packers banged up coming in. And you look back to that quarterback draft with the 6 quarterbacks taken in the first 12 picks, but the top 3, Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Drake Maye. Jaden Daniels made the Final 4 last year, sort of banged up this year, but Caleb Williams and Drake Maye certainly looking the part. Caleb Williams in a losing effort against San Francisco. What else are you looking for? I think the Bears are better here, and I just think the 2 seed matters. I think they got a lot to play for here. And so I like the Bears here. But I'm curious if you think the Bears and Patriots similar spot in terms of the 2 seeds?
No. I think the Patriots have a way better defense than
No,
Chicago.
I agree with that. I agree. I mean,
are you talking the situations?
Yeah,
or the priorities?
Similar.
Yeah. Give me the highest seed. Make sure I get those 2 games at home.
Yep,
Absolutely,
Yep.
My gold medal selection, I would be a hypocrite, or I would be spouting the bullshit if I didn't take New England minus 11.5 against Miami. Here's why. What do I harp on with Miami? They lose to the thermometer. 40 and under, they wilt. It's going to be cold as tits this weekend. There might be a little bit of snow. Miami is thinking, oh my God, we got to go to this cold hellhole to play our last game of the year before they go back to Miami and go to Bora Bora or wherever in the hell a lot of these guys go on vacation when the season is over with. I've said it for years. Miami loses to the thermometer. And even if Mike Vrabel jacks around with some of the Jimmies and the Joes, this is a spot where Miami loses to the thermometer. Give me New England minus 11.5.
Oh, it gets me so excited when you're on the Patriots. I love the conviction. It's so interesting. And I definitely think they got something to play for, and I also think that with this young team, continuing the momentum matters. The Dolphins have been a fly in the ointment in the past with the Patriots late in the season, but a lot of those games took place down here in Miami.
Down in Miami.
I was at the beach yesterday. I love it. I don't think they will pay any attention to trying to get Drake Maye the MVP, though. And I think the one thing that could, I think a backdoor cover could potentially bite you, but that would be a random situation. I like it. My gold medal selection, Gresh, I'm with you on the Broncos, -12.5 versus the Chargers. There's so much to play for. The only team in this wide open AFC where we believe, the Houston Texans, I think, are the most dangerous team right now with that winning streak and that defensive line, and really the whole defense. So for me, I just think the Broncos have so much to play for. The Chargers have told you they're laying down, to your point. And if I'm Houston, I'm really scoreboard watching, because if Jacksonville gets up early on Tennessee, I think you need to prioritize your health. If you're the Texans, I think the Broncos roll here. But you know what? All year long, they've been oddly average against inferior opponents. So it's not going to surprise me at all if the Broncos win like 30-20 and we don't get the cover.
Yeah, I'm expecting some of that wonkiness. For me, it was just, who are the teams? Who are the teams that I think I can count on that are going to put forth a representative effort, right? And you nailed it on it. Making picks on a Tuesday. I mean, this is the toughest handicap in all of the internet, because we do this show on a Tuesday. But to your point, Jay, on Friday, New Orleans might go, well, to hell with it. We're not going to play this guy. We're not going to play that guy. And it can end up really affecting not only the betting, but the number. That's why, for me, I just locked in the 3 AFC teams that I think are just going to treat it like a normal week and not overanalyze everything on seeding and stuff like that.
I absolutely love it. Before we get out of here, Gresh,
yeah,
if I might just talk to you about this college football playoff briefly and get a couple selections from you. Okay. So I'm in a contest at Splash Sports for this college football, right? And we had to make 2 picks against the spread in the first week, right?
Okay.
And so I went Alabama, Miami, and got through. So now I have to make 2 picks against the spread, right? But my bracket looks pretty good, Gresh. So I'm trying to sort of pick with a team that I think is going to win this thing. I am not a college football fan. So I don't have Alabama available to me, and I don't have Miami available to me. So what I really need to do is pick 2 teams that are going to win this week, but maybe not next week. So Oregon, Texas Tech. I've seen a lot of folks on other sides. Who do you like? Oregon, Texas Tech.
Oregon -2.5.
So you like Oregon there. Who do you like? Indiana, Alabama.
I like Indiana. -7 scares me a little bit. I think if I were to go cover, I'd pick Bama, winner, Indiana.
And you think Indiana beats Oregon if they face in the semi?
Yeah.
So you like
Indiana. I think Indiana's going to the national title game, and they're going to play Georgia.
So you like the dogs to beat Ole Miss.
The best bet of the weekend for me is either Georgia money line or Georgia minus the points. I think Georgia whips Ole Miss. I think Georgia whips them. I think Bama plays close. I also think Ohio State blows doors. I know they're -9.5. Miami ain't ready for them.
So, and then Ohio State, Georgia. So you think Georgia gets through Ohio State, huh?
Oh, yeah.
And then Georgia over Indiana, huh?
I have Georgia winning the national title. Indiana's tough because that Mendoza kid, I think, has got something. I really do. But yeah, if you told me right now, pick the natty, it's Georgia.
I love it. So what's interesting for me as a non-college football fan, right? I can sort of ride people, right? I was playing Miami, kind of living down here, Alabama. That Alabama game was sort of a pick 'em, funky game. They get down 17-0, but in a unique spot here. I don't think Ohio State repeats. I think, but this week I can go Georgia, Oregon, and still have Indiana, Ohio State available to me. It's going to be fascinating.
You know what? That's pretty good because, you got to survive the week.
Exactly.
That's you can't think too far ahead in those deals. But if you said to me,
Georgia, Oregon,
I think Ohio State blows doors. I think Georgia blows doors. I think Oregon wins a high scoring game. That one against Texas Tech. that the over to me might be the play there. And then I think Alabama covers, but they don't win.
So here's what I'm doing. I think you helped me do this.
Okay.
Ohio State would play Georgia next. And if you believe Georgia's going to win, I'm fucking saving Georgia. I'm taking Ohio State this week because I may use Georgia next week, perhaps. Right? Because I would, if I believe Georgia's going to win, right, I wouldn't take Ohio State. So if I go Ohio State, Indiana this week, then then next week I only need one team.
Yeah.
But if I'm saving Georgia, it's fascinating. We could go down a rabbit hole, but you helped me a lot.
I think you're in good shape there. And by the way, those games are great. There isn't a dud in any of them. I'm doing ESPN radio after the day of college football on January 1st. So when the last game, whichever one it is, they moved Oregon, Texas Tech to goddamn Miami and put them in the Orange Bowl. Because normally I would say, well, Oregon to be the late game, but I don't know how. I just don't know the schedule off the top of my head. But I know they're playing they're playing 1 on New Year's Eve and then 3 on New Year's Day. And I'll be on ESPN radio for like 2 hours after that last game to break it all down. It'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a ton of fun. And I know yesterday I did like their version of like Red Zone Radio, and we were working through all of the NFL stuff and some of the things that you and I talked about. And then, you kind of land on, hey, don't overthink it. I think we on the outside will look at seeding and this and that and the path to get there or whatever. I think at the end of the day, the ECN, like we had a former pro come on. He was like, listen, everybody on the outside focuses on that stuff. He was like, when we were in front of our head coach and it was playoff time or almost playoff time, they presented us the scenarios so we were aware. They said, but we treated it like a normal week. And I think like for Mike Vrabel, when it comes down to it and guys like that, they're just going to treat it like a normal week. And, football players get hurt. And if it happens, oh shit, what are we going to do? It's just the way it is. But go out and play football. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about the seed. Worry about the win. That was the biggest message.
I love it.
Be real interesting this week. I know we went into gas overtime, everybody. And look, we know that the Patriots are going to the playoffs. You're going to get a lot of football content here, but we're not ignoring the Celtics or anything like that. They're off to an amazing start. And I know that the closer we get to Jason Tatum's return, the closer that Jay and I will be getting even more excited for what the Celtics are becoming this year. Just quickly to follow up on the Steph Diggs deal. Apparently the Patriots put out a statement of support or something like that. According to our guy Cody, it's being reported Steph did tell the Patriots and vehemently denies any wrongdoing. You know what? This is a club. This feels like a club situation.
Well, he
went out and got into it, and that was it. Yeah.
And I mentioned that, but your point that you mentioned is the whole point is that if they've created this environment, all you have to do is tell Mike Vrabel. I tell my kids, you can literally do anything you want wrong other than lie to me. Like, I really don't give a fuck. You want to go grab your iPad, steal it away from me because I don't let you use it? Fine. If you lie about it, you're in trouble. Taking it, not as much.
There you go. Nope, it really is true. And so this Diggs thing will be worth monitoring. Hopefully this is not the beginning of a Diggs flare-up. I want him to flare up with 300-yard games in the playoffs on the way to the Super Bowl, not flare up this way now at the end of the damn year and mess things up. You know what I mean?
I want Cardi B in the conversation about the Super Bowl ring design. That's what I want.
That would be...
I'm so fired up, man. They got a shot.
Well, listen, I've taken advice from worse people on championship rings. So if Cardi wants to bring that big old B over and have a conversation with Big Bob about designing some things, then we can get down on that. I'll just tell Dr. Dana that I need a half an hour with Cardi B for my therapy. And we'll go from there. Cody just put in the chat. Gun to your head, is Travis Kelce done? Done. And here's the thing. He had an unbelievable NFL career. And now at a point where his skills are starting to decline, he has a multi-billionaire laying on the bed naked saying, make babies with me. What do you think that guy's going to do?
Well,
grind in Kansas City or grind on Taylor? I think it's the latter.
You know what's so interesting? When someone asked him if he was going to retire, he talked about seeing a billboard for the lottery amount, and he was like, "Oh, when I saw that," and it was like, "Are you joking? Because you won the lottery in terms of money. Like, are you serious?" I just thought it was so ironic that he actually brought that up. But with the utmost respect, I couldn't care less if he retires or not.
Really? Until they steal Hunter Henry.
I'm just not. I love Jason Kelce. I'm just not that big a fan of Travis Kelce overall. You know, I don't start talking to me about the greatest tight end of all time. Like,
oh no, that's wrong.
Yeah, and I just honestly, like, I'm just, you know, I don't think Travis Kelce's been supremely focused. I think he's been a big part of a loss or two this season, and so you know what I mean. I'm not drinking all the Kelce Kool-Aid, at least for that brother.
All right, this is Cody threw something in our chat. It's the last thing I'm going to react to. He said Gronk's a much better TV analyst than Jason Kelce. Whoa.
No.
Is
that a joke?
No, I don't think so. They showed Gronk standing with all those guys doing an interview, and he had his hands in his you know, like when you see little kids and they got to go pee. and they look antsy and their hands, like their thumbs are in their pockets and they're wiggly, right? He was doing that. He's standing beside freaking Strahan, and he's got his hands in his pockets and he's wiggling around like he had to go pee.
Don't even get me started. Did you hear him
stand still?
Did you hear him try to pronounce the word debut? And then Edelman gave him shit about Edelman's a great analyst, by the way. Cody, with respect, Gronk, I love Gronk. He's not the sharpest intellectual personality, and being sharp and having brain power certainly helps when you're on television as an analyst and you're talking sentences.
Not when you're next to Terry Bradshaw.
Oh yeah. Oh, listen, there's no Terry Bradshaw's way past the prime, but he's grandfathered, and there are no analysts that are connections to the past. The NFL actually loves that stuff.
And look, there's a place for Gronk, no question. But what I will say about Brady, take or leave him overall as an analyst, right? And there are moments where I'm like, who is this girl on the mic? I mean, boy, whatever. But so many times when I'm listening to his perspective is so unique as the greatest of all time. He makes these comments where he lets you in a similar way other analysts do, but it is so interesting sometimes when Tom Brady is talking to you during a football game.
You and I have had a lot of private discussions about a lot of different kinds of broadcasts, right? And things to do to integrate people and stuff like that. Man, if I got Gronk on my team at Fox, I'm literally putting him up on a board. And because that's where he's brilliant, right? You sit him down and you talk to him and you think, this guy might not be able to think. Put him on a board. Let him break down tight ends and coverage. He's like Brady from that end. And you make a great point, Jay. If you listen to Brady, you learn about football. And that's what you want out of it. Everybody told me for years as an analyst, tell me something about a play that I wouldn't know or realize. And that's why I go inside to the lines of scrimmage, why the hole opened up for the running back kind of stuff.
And I will say there's no ego in Brady's teaching, whereas I feel as though a lot of analysts, there's a lot of ego where they want to show you breaking it down. They want to tell you how much film they watch, where Brady is just so passionate about it, and that comes out to me. I can't get enough. And I'm not Tony Romo, I give or take, but Romo has a similar quality. He's very authentic to me in a lot of ways. I don't think he's some egomaniac. I think Romo is true to himself.
He just got hooked into getting plays right all the time, and it became a part of his right. Like Brady doesn't necessarily predict plays, but when Brady breaks down what happens, it's better than everybody else in football. People just can't get over that he looks like a dressed up goblin now. Like, seriously. I mean, he looks like he should be in the middle of a field scaring away like this, like scaring away fucking birds. He got that thin old neck, and he's got the turkey gobbler developing there. I mean, and I love the guy. Listen, he was great. He contributed to my book years ago. He's Brady really is good people, but god dang, this whole 49-year-old version of him, you're like, ugh, wow. How do you get to that point? All right, Giselle never baked for us, nor him. She only cooked him after he won his 7th Super Bowl. How crazy is that? All right, that's it. That's it for Gresh and Anik today. I know we've gone mad overtime. Thank you for making us a part of your day wherever you are. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, tell people about the show, all that happy stuff that I don't completely understand, but Cody does. Until next week for how about this? This is where you hear the bang under the desk, right?
Yep.
A playoff edition of Gas next week. We'll know an opponent. We'll know the opponent. We'll have more info on Diggs, but we will be getting ready for a playoff game next week here. The first ever Gas playoff edition. I cannot wait. Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Drake Maye, baby. Drake Maye. How about that recruiting class that Chapel Bill's putting together too, Jay? Did you hear about that? They went and got Bobby Petrino, so the run of horny coaches continue to make their way into Chapel Hill. That's it for us. That's it for Gas. We're out of here. We'll see you next week.
See ya.